from this community, we are driven by the privilege of highlighting special and unique people and places.
And that's why together we came up with the idea of Kentuckiana Proud. Good evening and happy holidays, everybody. I'm Eric King.
And I'm Hayley Minogue. We're sitting back and reflecting on all we're thankful for this year, including these important stories all over Kentuckiana. These are stories that connect us, from the only Blue Ribbon award-winning school in our community to haunted candy shops to women soaring to new heights in their fields and local leaders who are making a lasting impact in their communities, in business and beyond.
Cancer is something that unfortunately connects all of us. I want to introduce you to Monica Lurie, a cancer survivor who was diagnosed at the beginning of the pandemic. Today, she's reminding us about the fight inside all of us and the importance of early detection. What was the tougher part, the navigating all the things that you had to be present to do, or just daily processing that I've got this in my body?
Maybe both, only because everything happens so fast that you almost don't even get time to realize. It's weird because nobody else really gets to see it happening outside of just when you're at home. So, you know.
You lost your hair.
You lost your hair. You know, nobody was a lot of times people would say, oh, I had a friend come with me on my last day of chemo and all this stuff, or they come sit with you and keep you company, and I didn't have that. So nobody gets to see me with a pole and wires and tubes and pushing it around to go to the bathroom because nobody was allowed to go.
I think what stood out to me is I never saw you not happy. Like, you were always excited to talk to people and share your journey, and you never seemed just beaten up and sad.
No, I mean, you can't let it get you down. So at least that was my perspective. You know, I can't let it defeat me, and it's just kind of, hey, you turned 40, and I wasn't gonna let that win. I turned 40, I'm still good. So, you know, you want to try to be as normal as possible because there's so many other things that aren't normal.
2 years later, coming out of the pandemic, you're healthy again,
Yep.
Look great, sound great. What's the message to other people? I know mammograms have been something that you speak very highly of, being very important.
Yeah, you have to go get your mammogram, go get your yearly physical, everything that, even if you feel fine, you know, because there's no telling what could be going on that you don't know about. And there's a test that doctors are going to run, you know, that see something that you can't feel. And, you know, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean it's not there. And it ultimately could kill you. So you got to catch it early so you can live longer.
Life-saving.
Live your life, yeah.
Monica, thank you.
Thank you.
And today, Monica is the pillar of health, really. She says being diligent about regular primary care saved her life, and she urges others to get regular checkups.
The past 2 years have been tough for a lot of us in many different professions. As a teacher, student, or administrator, I cannot imagine just how validating it must feel to learn that you've been awarded a national Blue Ribbon from the Department of Education. Luckily, I don't have to imagine, because St. Francis of Assisi, the only school in Kentuckiana to win it this year, invited us in to tell us why they're Kentuckiana Proud. Inside St. Francis of Assisi on Bardstown Road, the accomplishment of a Department of Education Blue Ribbon Award isn't taken lightly by the 8th graders.
Being part of a Blue Ribbon school means staying confident during hard times.
Our determination, patience, respect, and perseverance we pass on to this school. It shows how much we truly work towards excellence
and giving your best even when no one else is. It means to not only work for your teachers, but also work for yourself.
One that is often dismissed as wholly benign has shown through with the aids of vigor, perseverance, and support.
Impressive, but not unexpected from a group of students who are winning their second Blue Ribbon while part of this student body. A Blue Ribbon is awarded to a school based on overall academic excellence or their progress in closing achievement gaps.
We certainly don't see this as an end, but a beginning.
Principal Steve Frohmeyer is in his 10th year at St. Francis and is also celebrating his second Blue Ribbon in his time at the school.
I'm waiting on pencil box.
A longtime educator, he recognizes the significance of this award, especially on the tail end of a pandemic, but gives all of the credit to the entire school community.
We've been through some hard times, you know, and People have still pulled together and stuck with us, and I think you can't underscore the value of people working together and community building in terms of success.
While the celebrations throughout the year will come.
Are you ready for a snack?
Right now, it's just business as usual, continuing the work to prepare the next generation, hopeful this won't be their last blue ribbon at St. Francis.
We came together to push through the pandemic because that's what being a family means to us, all coming together.
Only 24 private schools in the country made the list this year. All right, so when I mention the opera, you probably imagine a room like this one, right? With all the gold adornment and the pomp and circumstance, the singer, a robust woman with the Valkyrie helmet, right? Just bellowing from the depths of who knows where.
All those things are completely accurate, right?
Yeah.
But the Kentucky Opera, one of the county's longest standing opera groups, or country rather, longest running in the country, is working to change perceptions about the opera and to show just how accessible the performances can be. According to the National Assembly of State Arts Agencies, Kentucky's impeccable performing arts scene and creative industries contribute $4.9 billion, that's billion with a B, every year to the state economy. General Director and CEO of Kentucky Opera, Barbara Lynn Jameson, didn't set out to be an opera singer and now runs our city's productions flawlessly.
I don't think we as audience members realize how much we influence what's happening on the stage, the timing. It's so important that the audience realizes that we make so much of a difference. I think it's really important to remember that we're experiencing a moment in time that will never be repeated. It's not like a movie you can watch again or a book you can pick up a few years later.
Tickets start at around $40 for each of this year's 4 performances. The group is hoping people who are ready to experience opera for the first time get out and give it a try.
To the world, it's the most thrilling 2 minutes in sports. To us, it's a source of pride and tradition. The Kentucky Derby is the longest running American sporting event held every year since 1875. And this year, more than 147,000 people attended the Kentucky Derby. It stood as welcome recovery and a return to normalcy post-pandemic. Some of the people responsible for sharing the excitement and history of the event are from our community. And one of the reasons we are always up to speed when it comes to the Derby and Churchill Downs is because of the work of one woman who says she's right where she has always wanted to be.
Yeah, she really is. Her name is Tanya Ablin, and one of the things I've learned from her over the years from watching her is it's really less about the process of becoming successful and more about the inspiration you are to others along the way.
I'm the Vice President of Corporate Communication for Churchill Downs Incorporated and the President of the Churchill Downs Foundation.
Never mind her technical title. Tanya Ablin is the personification of the Kentucky Derby.
I truly do feel like I'm living my dream through this role. I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Born in Wayne County, educated at the University of Louisville, Tanya is a fashion-forward wordsmith. She's the mastermind behind Churchill Downs' communication strategies. And one of the most visible symbols of the Kentucky Derby. Intentionally or not, it's a role that was made for her.
Growing up, the Kentucky Derby always represented something to me that's difficult to articulate, but that inspired me. And I grew up watching it with my dad, and I remember thinking, I wonder if we'll ever go to the Kentucky Derby. And just being really enamored by everything that represented the Derby.
After college, Tanya spent some time living in different parts of the country, from the Midwest to the West Coast.
And then I became what I call just an evangelist about Louisville, Kentucky and the Kentucky Derby. And I would host derby parties and mandate all of these things that the people who came to the party had to do. I was very militant about it. One, because I was homesick and I just wanted to get back home. But also I wanted everyone else to feel that the Derby was as special as I feel it is.
And they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Tanya assumed the communication reins at CDI in 2019. Right before the world changed.
everything was out of control, but it felt like a great responsibility. So, you know, and I'm a little more dramatic than your average bear anyway, I'll admit, but I remember being so focused on that communication strategy that I really didn't pay attention to what was happening in the rest of the world until the day we made that announcement. And then I went home and just collapsed under the pressure of seeing what was happening in our world. But I think that when you're in the world of communications and you care the way we do about the message and about the content, you want everyone else to care as much as you do.
Tanya's job is to actively share the experience of all things Derby. With that, her work is aligned with her personal purpose, and that makes her Kentuckiana proud.
I think human connection is the most important thing to me. And whether that's through my role in communications with the community, whether it's being a mother, through my friendships, I think when you can leave the world a kinder place, that's something that I will always be most proud of.
Churchill Downs is already fully involved in preps for next year's Derby with the goal of adding to the tradition in new ways, continuing to celebrate the diversity of our community and helping all of us create new memories and experiences.
The Kentucky Derby Museum is one of those places that you expect to be the class of the field, right? And since it's the only museum of its kind in the world, the person who leads it has to also be the class of the field. Luckily, that person is someone who's born and raised in Bullitt County, and he could not be more proud.
I've been here since August of 2015.
His name is Pat Armstrong.
That was the American Pharaoh Triple Crown year. So I've been here almost 7 years.
Born and raised on a farm in Mount Washington, a graduate of Bullitt East's first high school class and later Eastern Kentucky University, Pat Armstrong's entire adult life has been on some level dedicated to the Kentucky Derby.
Terry Bradshaw probably put it best when he said, "You have the Super Bowl in your city every year."
First, it was several years working at the Kentucky Derby Festival, and now as the president and CEO of the Kentucky Derby Museum, a position that's not only part of the fabric of our community, it's one very personal to him.
An event, a sporting event that's been held in Louisville, Kentucky for 147 years. Sometimes that makes you want to pinch yourself. And we get to tell the story here at the museum. Couldn't be more honored to be in the position. We have an outstanding staff here, and we get to tell the story of the Derby every year. And such a part of the community, and I can't tell you how much it means to be involved with a brand like the Kentucky Derby, a unique brand. There's only one. There's only one Derby museum.
Under his leadership and guidance, the museum continues to grow with new exhibits and attractions focused on inclusivity and telling the stories of the entire Kentucky Derby experience and history.
To reach that point of pride in the community, living here, sometimes we take things for granted. But the Kentucky Derby is bigger than life. It means so much to this community as an economic driver, as the people, the personalities. The world focuses on Louisville, and we celebrate it with the Derby Festival, and we celebrate it Derby Week with different events and so on. But I think it's so unique, and it's here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's here every year.
I just can't help but point out that we have these two massive icons in our city, and they're led by local people, not people who were brought in, who were CEOs of organizations way out west or something. They're from right here.
It makes me so proud, especially, you know, any time of year, really, right? Especially in May in Kentuckiana, but I can catch the Derby spirit in December. It's no problem, right?
You know, when it comes into town, when anybody really comes into town for the Derby, there's one place that greets them first. So this holiday season, many of you are getting pretty familiar with that sound and this place, the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. Last holiday season, the airport saw 120,000 passengers in the days around Thanksgiving alone, and they can handle it. In the last 4 years, the airport has appointed a new leader, changed its name, of course, and become one of the busiest cargo airports in the world, all while drastically increasing its number of direct and nonstop flights.
So one of the people helping fuel the innovation is a young woman making a name for herself in an industry where her presence is considered rare.
Yeah, I sat down with a Mercy Academy graduate who's become a backbone to the 5th busiest cargo airport in the world, or as she calls it, home.
I'm never satisfied, Eric.
Megan Thobin's work ethic may be the singular most identifiable trait behind her exceptional competence.
I fortunately was raised by amazing parents and a dad who was very interested in flying.
It started with learning the values of time management at the ripe old age of 6.
My dad was a small business owner, and so time with him was short because he had to work a ton owning his own business. And so I felt like when he had that time to fly, that was a great opportunity for me to be able to take advantage of time with him. But then I also got to fly.
By now, you can probably see and appreciate Megan's high energy excitement. It's part of her design.
I was always told as a woman, as a female, I was empowered to do something in aviation, that it wasn't restricted to men.
Megan, a graduate of the aviation program at Eastern Kentucky University, is the Director of Operations and Business Development for the Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. In short, she and her team manage everything from runway operations to airport communication systems to terminal ongoings. All that while leading the airport's $400 million renovation project.
I just want to talk about it. I want to tell everyone about what we're doing here at the airport. I want to tell everyone about our city because I feel like we've done a really good job of coming together with those initiatives, of surprising people with what we're doing here in Louisville.
Megan recently joined the airport's executive director, Dan Mann, at an international aviation conference in Paris, France as a speaker. She was a visible symbol of the growing presence of women in aviation.
When I'm going out on that international stage and I'm talking about the airport, I'm also just talking about our city. You know, I'm talking about what we're doing as a city that is tied to why we're growing, why we are pursuing what we're pursuing, and how that is shaping our success. It's all because of what we're doing in our city.
Representation matters, and Megan knows it. She's intentional about the work to recruit not just more women and minorities in the aviation fields, but all who have an interest and passion for it, because she'll be the first to tell you she followed her passion and landed exactly where she's always wanted to be.
Airplanes connect people in the world, and so my other passion has always been people. And so bringing those two things together, they always really made sense for me that was something that I should do, that would be my calling, having to do with connecting people and flight and airplanes.
Right now, women make up about 30% of the aviation industry, and that number does not include pilots, where women only make up about 8%.
Being Kentuckiana Proud is about highlighting the people, places, and things in our community often overlooked. But it's hard not to overlook something that's quite literally lurking underneath the surface. So I took a deep dive into an old urban legend I've probably told about a human-eating bottom feeder in the Ohio River.
I'm gonna try to catch it.
Alonzo Chappelle
That's what I'm gonna do.
is on a mission.
That's the thrill of it, trying to catch the biggest fish you can.
While he waits, we ask him if he remembers a massive fishtail.
I've heard it once before, but I don't know how true it is, but I know it's some pretty big fish out here. You never know what you're gonna catch in the Ohio River.
As the legend goes, there's a catfish the size of a Volkswagen exploring the depths of the Ohio River until an unsuspecting child or diver crosses its path and is never seen again.
No one's ever asked me officially, like as part of my job, about it.
Philip Kakmar is the Big Rivers fisheries biologist for the Indiana Department of Natural Resources.
Personally, I've heard that when I was living in Wisconsin and Tennessee. I've talked to people out of Missouri and Arkansas who've heard relatively the same story, always below a dam or a bridge, depending on where you are in the states.
So, not unique to our river, state, or region, but does that mean giant catfish are lurking in all our major waterways?
That's the thing, over in Asia and also like Wells, I guess, the Wells catfish, they can get massive and they can eat bigger things, but you know,
Like, come on.
I mean, that's the thing, that is close to probably about a 250-pound fish.
And it's still not big enough.
Yeah, like maybe an infant or something, you know, maybe maybe an infant or like that, but hopefully people aren't letting their infants go into the river.
Philip says the cautionary part of the legend, the don't swim alone or dive too deep or after dark or else aspect, could be what created the legend in the first place.
It's a lot easier to blame a catfish than people's own issues, I'll say. As in, it's a lot easier if someone goes missing or someone drowns to blame that a catfish ate them opposed to the river current took them in or something else like was the reason why they passed away.
So no, there aren't giant catfish lurking, ready to swallow you whole.
Maybe it's not even that it grew that big, but there's something in the river that like radioactively, like Spider-Man effect.
Oh, I'm not going to comment on that one. I'm not touching that one. I'm sorry.
At least none that we've seen quite yet.
I knew it was something. I knew it was something out there.
If you've been waking up with us for Good Morning Kentuckiana, you've become very familiar with Kentuckiana Proud. It's the weekly segment where we really just get to highlight the people and the places that make us special and unique.
And we've learned you don't have to be native to Kentuckiana to call it home.
Yeah, that is no more clear than when you talk of the Sadiqua Reynolds, who recently stepped down as president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League. In her new venture, she'll serve as the CEO of a New York-based organization, but she'll continue to live right here in Louisville.
Let people peacefully march.
Her voice is powerful.
Let them say what they want to say.
Her leadership, steady.
And give us the opportunity to heal as a community.
Her resolve, unbroken.
But I also feel an obligation to be honest about where we are and how hard it is going to be to change things.
This is the Sadiqua Reynolds we've come to know over the last 7 years as she's led the Louisville Urban League, the first woman ever to hold that role in its nearly 100-year history. But
you know what I was thinking this morning, because you asked about how my mind works? My one burning question.
There's also this side of her.
Why did Lionel Richie make Dancing on the Ceiling? I hate that song.
Quick to humor.
I hate that song.
And full of levity. It's a balance she's had to have. The daily demands, the constant pressures, the depth of needs, a pandemic that disproportionately attacked Black communities. At times, it could be almost crippling.
And let me just say, it has not been easy. I have taken my hits. Forget about the death threats. I don't even.
I was gonna ask.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I can't even tell you the stuff. But that has hardly worried me. It's been in my mind.
Her public victories are celebrated, from jobs, new legislation, justice efforts, and housing, to the $53 million fully paid off Norton Sports and Learning Center. Privately, those victories came at a cost.
There have been donors who called me just to tell me they were not going to write me a check. They would never support the Urban League as long as I was there. And not only would they not support the Urban League, they would tell their friends not to. And it happened. I used to keep a chart of the people who said they would not give and how much money we lost because of them. And people are so mean that they'll call and tell you who they're giving their money to instead of you, so that you are constantly tortured by.
She didn't waver. She didn't shrink.
My job was always, in my life, in my opinion, to push for more, because I think we deserve more. And I think America will be better when Black people have everything they deserve.
And she certainly didn't stop fighting or speaking out. In fact, she just got louder.
People talk about that sports complex, and that is an amazing gift to this community. I thank God that He used me as a vessel. But the legacy for real is showing Black people that you have to make no apologies. You have the right to be frustrated and to say out loud what the fix is.
Sadiqua is change-driven, and results matter. And that's why, at this juncture in her life, she's at peace.
There's nothing I would change about my 7 years at the Urban League. I think we did everything we could, and in the time that we could do it in, the best that we could for the people we serve.
Reynolds stepped down as the Louisville Urban League CEO at the end of October. The role has since been assumed by Dr. Keish Price, who served as the league's Director of Education Policy and Programs under Reynolds. Dr. Price says she is determined to open more doors for people in communities that have long been underserved. She plans to do that through initiatives emphasizing education and health equity. Dr. Keish Price also says she wants to strengthen the organization's ties with JCPS.
In its first year with the new name, the Big Stomp celebrated its 6th year in Southeast Jefferson County. Just take a look at some of the scenes. Thousands of people taking in music and entertainment, all in the name of positive mental health. The Big Stomp began as Pete Fest, the largest mental health focused music festival in the country. As I found out, taking care of your mental health can be tough, but beautiful and fun, all at the same time.
Well, it was very difficult. It was in December of 2016, and he had been suffering for a while, and I was helping him, and he was receiving care. And so really, him taking his life was kind of out of the blue.
Pete Jones's story isn't rare. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in people ages 10 to 34. What is unique is his family's immediate action and the way they chose to honor his final request.
Pete left us a note, and his last line in that note, and this is always the hardest thing for me to say, was, "I want to help mankind." And so we felt we would do that for him in his name because of the way he lived his life, such a good person.
From Pete's death came a new addition to Louisville's music festival lineup. For the past 5 years, Pete Fest was a staple. But this year, with a new name, Big Stomp is hoping to continue their mission as the country's largest mental health music festival.
Immediately, probably within 3 weeks of saying, hey, we're going to start this foundation, the idea came up about doing a music festival because it's a way to reach a lot of people. Music and mental wellness kind of go together. A lot of people look to music as a refuge. It is calming. It can be very calming.
The hope is everyone leaves with new knowledge and better mental peace.
I hope that a lot of people come away from the festival feeling that way and believing that, and especially for our children. You know, we test them a lot. Think of when they're infants and we measure how much are they growing, all this stuff, and then they go to the doctor every year for checkups. Well, we should just give a little checkup on the mental health.
The work of the Pete Foundation doesn't stop here. You can read up on more what they do to make a difference at thepetefoundation.org.
All right, this is something that's become a very familiar sight. The joy, pride, and really the celebration around veterans traveling on an honor flight. Honor Flight Bluegrass is an all-volunteer organization that flies World War II, Vietnam, and Korean War veterans to Washington, D.C. to visit the monuments that were created to honor their service. The man at the helm of the organization prefers to fly under the radar. Jeff Toki, the board chairman for the Bluegrass Honor Flight, has made it his life's mission to honor our veterans as best he can. And part of that is making sure the stories of these veterans are told. His connections to veterans started with his own family. His grandfather flew with the French in World War I, and his father flew B-17 bombers in World War II.
And when I see a 98, 99, 100-year-old World War II veteran, I sort of see my dad's image. And I do what I do really in honor of him and all veterans who have served our great country.
So I know you get a lot of personal joy out of your job.
Yes.
But when you say that, because I know that you aren't just running honor flight and getting veterans on flights. I know that you are going to funerals a lot. Why do you do that, and what toll does it take on you?
You know, we owe our veterans everything. We are here because of them.
Honor Flight Bluegrass is funded entirely by donations, so if you would like to donate, volunteer, or if there's a veteran in your life who'd like to go on an honor flight, we'll put details in this story at WHS11.com.
We also sat down with a trailblazer who's still being called on today to lead. Laura Douglas is the first black woman to graduate from the University of Louisville's law school. Laura retired from LG&E and KU in 2017 with hopes of just being a grandmother, but she was immediately called on by the mayor to help lead TARC after the abrupt resignation of the agency's director and the fallout it caused. She was then tapped to lead the Ali Center as it searched for a new CEO. She says this community has given her so much, she's happy to help when asked.
There's good work going on all over the place, and when an organization needs help and they're interested in me lending a hand and helping for a period of time, I feel almost obligated to step up and do what I can do. I think it's important.
Today, Laura is the interim president and CEO of the West End Opportunity Partnership and hasn't shown any signs of slowing down. Being Kentuckiana Proud is so much more than just being born in Louisville. It's about getting out in the community and really experiencing. From Boo at the Zoo to the backside at Churchill Downs, I am so fortunate to have shared so many of the experiences with my siblings and with my parents. It's just so amazing to be able to look back on these memories and even see ideas for what I can do with my son as we continue to be Kentuckiana Proud here in Louisville today.
I am Kentuckiana Proud just for the way I grew up in Bardstown. Real sense of community, great teachers, played sports. Some I was terrible at, basketball. Some I was quite good at, track. Classroom work, teachers were fantastic. Really enjoyed the family and friends I had. Really set me up to have a great life that I have now, being able to go out and talk to interesting people, learn about their lives, and be part of organizations that are really doing the work that needs to be done in this community.
Kentuckiana Proud is designed to celebrate the best of who we are and highlight people who are helping to shift perspectives and change lives. And these next two people are no exception.
Yo, not at all. First, Zach Miners, a classically trained filmmaker here who is using his own voice and trauma, really, to make sure others don't have to share his experience.
You'll never be successful. You'll never find love. You'll never find happiness.
There's something special about watching a feature film with the film's director in the theater he owns,
and they will take extraordinary measures.
It's a never-ending industry.
With the people who helped make it all happen.
I'm really lucky because I've been able to kind of reclaim my story and reclaim my trauma in a way and work through it. And a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
They've been told that change is possible with the gravitas of mental health.
The movie is a feature film documentary called Conversion. It follows 5 survivors of conversion therapy as they shed light on the often secretive practice. Zach Miners isn't just the director.
So I started conversion therapy when I was 14 years old here in Louisville.
He is one of the 5.
What was the trauma?
I mean, I think conversion therapy is any attempt to change one's sexual or gender orientation or identity through psychological or spiritual intervention. And so that can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. For me, it was talk therapy and basically teaching self-shame and even in some instances like, you know, hurting yourself or inflicting pain on yourself. As I got older, I realized, A, this wasn't working, it was not sustainable, I was secretly hating myself.
Today, Zach is among the nearly 700,000 survivors of conversion therapy. The film just debuted at the Portland Film Festival in Oregon and will soon be seen in other major film festivals across the country.
And I think because it was a survivor-led film, the conversations that we were having were deeper and were coming from a more sympathetic place because we were talking to each other. You know, it wasn't like they were being interviewed by some outside producer who had no concept of what they had been through.
It should be noted, according to the Williams Institute, more than 40% of survivors have attempted or seriously considered suicide in the past year. That number rises to nearly 60% for trans and non-binary survivors.
I hope when people see the film, or maybe when they hear my story or any of the other stories in the film, that maybe they're able to help someone else or even share their own story and feel empowered to be able to do that, because I really think that's how positive change is going to happen.
Zach's film premiered for an East Coast audience on November 17th in New York City. And to read up on it and to keep up to date on when you'll be able to see it here at home, Go to conversionmovie.com.
All right, here's a daunting statistic. 50% of black businesses don't make it to the 5-year mark.
Yeah, recognizing that, a Kentuckiana woman is really putting the work in to change those numbers for the better. Take a look.
People have to know that these businesses exist, and if they don't have the money to do that, they're not going to survive. And so that's kind of where I come in.
Forward thinking and with business savvy, Tiandra Robinson is changing the game for local black-owned businesses.
I never imagined it would get to the point that it is.
Armed with a bachelor's degree in advertising from Western Kentucky University and a master's degree in communication from Webster University, she's turned herself into an in-demand and demonstrably effective PR maven for historically excluded business owners.
My thing was, let me do small businesses. It was never niched down to black owned, but that is who generally became my clientele, were black business owners. And so in working with them, I was just like, they need help.
Tiandra founded 502 Black Business Week, which happens every year in June, and Black Eats Week, which happens in October. Additionally, she founded her own PR company and works year-round to create awareness about local black-owned businesses. It's her way to help level the playing field.
One of the major hurdles, obstacles that they face is lack of funding. And they are 3 times more likely to be rejected for funding versus a white business. And so when you have all of these obstacles in the way, it is harder for us to start and maintain.
Her laser-focused efforts have helped black businesses increase their client bases, survive the pandemic, grow, expand, and thrive.
I am most proud of that I have been positioned, or I tell people it's like a calling, that I've been called to do these things for these black-owned businesses.
How do you know that it's not Dama that's in here, and that you're pretty confident that it's Frederick?
I'm pretty confident it's Frederick because the spirit that's here is not evil.
So this might be one of the most fun and certainly the spookiest Kentuckiana Proud stories that we've done so far, and it comes right out of southern Indiana. So a business owner started working her dream job in 2020 by opening up a candy shop. Seems simple, right? Well, she then hired her daughter to help out.
Right, and what she didn't realize was that a third set of hands also came with the building. So now a 200-year-old ghost named Frederick is connecting Stevie Carper with her community in a way she never expected.
Inside the pink door on Pearl Street, before the place opens for business. 1, 2, 3. Stevie Carper works quickly and efficiently, but never alone.
Oh yeah, it's my can't sneak up on me mirror. Yeah. You're sitting here and you feel like there's somebody watching you. I can at least look in the mirror and know that there's not actually somebody standing behind me.
Rather than pack it in and call it quits, she started trying to learn more about who could be calling her business home.
I've got one of those little phones in the back it was a Halloween phone that's got like a sensor on it, but it doesn't work, but it works right now. And it just rings randomly. Like when I'm about to leave, the phone will ring because I'll say, bye, Frederick, and I'll hear the phone go, ring, ring.
Frederick Nolte became the town baker in New Albany after arriving in the States from Germany in 1817. So when he mysteriously went missing in 1820, people noticed immediately and quickly told police he was last seen drinking with John Dahman.
About 10 days later, some men were out fishing and in the Ohio, and they found Frederick's body. But they knew that this was a murder because his throat was slit and his head had been cracked open.
After an international manhunt, John Dahman was convicted and hanged for Frederick Nolte's murder, the first murder and hanging in town history. And the story?
I don't know about this.
All happened back here in the crawl space of the candy shop with the original dirt floors and bricks.
And then you've got these look at the old stairs right there. And I kind of think that he probably died somewhere around in here.
Frederick Nolte's bakery later became a dry goods store, a ship-loading store, a repair shop, tattoo shop.
2, 3.
But this is the first time it's sold food since his death.
I think just bringing in candy and making food, because I make a lot of my candies in the back and stuff, he feels that. He likes it, so he's a part of it.
A harmless spirit bringing Stevie closer to her community history.
He's not mischievous, or I just can't get him to clean the floors, that's all.
Now, the shop on Pearl Street's hours differ day to day, so be sure to check them out before you stop in to wish Stevie and Frederick a happy holidays.
So the phone ringing, that's creepy.
That was okay. So that was, she had told us all about it, We went back there to like shoot a little segment called a tease that airs before the story airs, and it went off behind me, and I probably jumped 3 feet out of my skin. Yes, it was something else.
All right, everybody, Kentuckiana Proud is something that we're really proud of, and we'll continue to bring you these stories every week on Good Morning Kentuckiana right here on WHAS 11.
Yeah, you can tune in every Tuesday at 6 a.m. as we share the stories and highlight the local heroes inspiring so many of us and so many others.
Thank you so much for joining us. Happy holidays, and we'll see you bright and early on Good Morning Kentuckiana.